Good evening, everybody. President Obama today lecturing our allies again while making empty threats to some of our adversaries. The president telling Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to immediately return to the November 2012 ceasefire agreement with Hamas after top diplomat John Kerry criticized the Israeli ground strikes against Hamas targets in Gaza. President Obama still yet to condemn the terror campaign waged by Hamas on the Israeli population. And the president tonight delivering another ambiguous threat to President Vladimir Putin over Malaysian Airlines flight MH17. President Obama told the Russian leader to cooperate with international investigators or risk, quote, further isolation. The president failed to lay out any specific, tangible repercussions for Russia's actions. We begin tonight in the Middle East. President Obama dispatching his Secretary of State, John Kerry, to Cairo, there to pursue a ceasefire between the Israeli Defense Forces and Hamas terrorists in Gaza. Sunday, one of the bloodiest days of the conflict, with more than 100 Palestinians and 13 Israeli soldiers killed, including 2 with American citizenship. President Obama with the temerity as well to declare he is now looking for a, quote, immediate cessation of hostilities, despite the reality that it was Hamas rocket fire that violated the November 2012 truce agreement to which he would like Prime Minister Netanyahu to return, and that Israel has already agreed to 2 separate ceasefires that were immediately rejected by Hamas.
We have serious concerns about the rising number of Palestinian civilian deaths and the loss of Israeli lives. And that is why it now has to be our focus and the focus of the international community to bring about a ceasefire that ends the fighting and that can stop the deaths of innocent civilians.
Here's Secretary of State Kerry yesterday sarcastically complaining about Israel's campaign inside Gaza over a mic the secretary did not realize was open.
It's a hell of a pinpoint operation. It's a hell of a pinpoint operation.
Prime Minister Netanyahu bluntly reminded President Obama and Secretary Kerry that complaints about civilian casualties should be directed at the terror group Hamas and not Israel.
This is the cruelest, most grotesque war that I've ever seen. I mean, not only does Hamas target civilians, ours, and hides behind their civilians, theirs, it actually wants to pile up as many civilian deaths as possible. So if there's any complaints, and there should be, about civilian deaths, they belong, the responsibility and the blame belongs in one place, Hamas. I don't think anyone should get that wrong.
The administration appears to be tending to getting just that wrong. The Prime Minister vowed to widen the operation until Israel can reach what he calls, quote, sustained silence, while predicting the Israeli offensive against Hamas targets in Gaza could last several more weeks. Fox News correspondent Connor Powell in Gaza City tonight with our report.
At Gaza's Shifa hospital, a non-stop cycle is repeating itself. The injured are rushed in, while the dead are carried out to be buried. The past 36 hours have been especially costly to both Israelis and Palestinians, and the violence only grows. Health officials say more than 570 Palestinians have been killed, many of them civilians.
Without any alarming, they are bombing us at the midnight, 2 a.m. We are not related to any military works or any political activation.
Still, Israeli officials say they have warned civilians to leave the areas of operations, but those warnings are ignored. The 2-week conflict is taxing humanitarian groups. The United Nations estimates more than 81,000 civilians have fled their homes and taken shelter in UN camps north of Gaza.
As the number of refugees have grown the past few days with intense fighting, basic things like food and water are becoming more difficult. Fights breaking out here at a UN camp just for water.
Israel's military continued locating and destroying Hamas's vast tunnel and bunker system. The military says they've struck some 2,800 targets across Gaza. But so far, the operation has failed to silence Hamas's rockets. Today, more than 100 rockets were fired towards Israel, and Israeli forces clashed with Hamas gunmen who infiltrated into Israel via tunnels wearing Israeli military uniforms. Hamas said at least 10 of its fighters were killed, but still claimed it as a victory. Israeli soldiers were also killed as well in the clash.
We are slowly but gradually reducing the rocket threat on Israel. This is a difficult campaign. It's a long campaign, but we are determined and we are dealing with all the problems.
Israel vows to continue the operation until all of its goals are met, while Hamas says it will turn Gaza into a graveyard for Israeli troops. Secretary of State John Kerry, of course, is on his way to the Middle East tonight to help broker some type of ceasefire to end the violence. The State Department announcing today that they will give $47 million to help with the humanitarian crisis here in Gaza. But more than anything, this area needs a ceasefire. Lou?
Connor, thank you. Connor Powell reporting. We'll have much more on the fighting in Gaza. We'll be talking with Fox News military analyst Colonel Ralph Peters later here in the broadcast.